So,
welcome back to the Fern House project. This week, it's time to make a material list. Originally, I was planning on making the Fern House 12 feet by 20 feet. And this was based on some layout floor plans I had seen on Etsy for teeny cabins. But now that I'm down to actually making my supply list, I'm gonna visit my building site to see if I can squeeze in a few extra feet into that plan in the space that's already open and available.
I did that. So what's 4 foot off of this? If I made myself...
Probably gonna put stone on top of it and stick the building.
Now, this gentleman here is my dad. He is a master builder in my life. He is a mechanic by trade, but I've watched him build everything from violins and cabinets to houses and you name it. So he is definitely a go-to person for me on this project. We ended up deciding that we could actually squeeze an extra 4 foot out the one side and an extra 2 feet the other way. So my dimensions just grew from being 12 by 20 to being 16 by 22. I'm really happy with this. There also was enough room to attach a 4 foot deck across the front of this cabin. That deck will wrap around the one side and connect to an 8 foot deck, which will be built onto the south facing side of the cabin. It was a beautiful day, and we did not rush back inside to get right to making these plans, but we took some time to really just kind of soak in the environment and enjoy being down at the building site. So we thought about where a hammock ought to be placed down here. And then we went out to the field and just looked at all that was happening out there. The wildflowers that are in bloom, the raspberries that are ripening, the butterflies, what's left of the cicadas. There was a lot to see.
That's a 1/2 inch to the foot, so it's a good scale. So you buy your 20 footer. Here's another 20 footer. The rest of them are 2 by 10, 16. Get this squared up. Then you come along and you lay your sheets of plywood on there.
Mm-hmm. My dad surprised me by having already done the drawings. And so we didn't actually have to sit down and do them. We sat down and reviewed what he already made and made some adjustments for the measurements we had taken down at the building site. These plans were fantastic, and he had an entire stack of them. They showed me each and every step of the project, and it showed me how I would go about constructing those steps. So, for example, this is the floor decking, and he even included the cutaway so that I could see the layers of my floor decking and understand the assembly process. This is fantastic, and it was so great to have somebody explain to me the process and not just take over and do it for me.
All you got to do is make it the size you want it to be.
So we are going to amend that to 16.
Okay.
All right.
So then you could bring it over here, because right here is where your gas bottle is going to be. Okay. Now there's your gas bottle. So now you put this rascal here, bring it up against, and again, what you can do is, you don't have to nail this if you want to take it off. If you can screw this on.
So these are the instructions I'm getting for how decks are attached to buildings.
And then it has to sit on.
I need little posts or something.
You need maybe a pillar, block pillars or a post or something out here to hold this weight. You know, like maybe 1, 2, 3 of them.
He was assuring me that this was a really basic, straightforward kind of carpentry project. If I could build a box, I could build this little cabin. And as he explained the steps, I was able to visualize how it would go together and realize that although I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, I do think it is something that I can probably tackle.
But you know what?
Well, if I know what I'm looking for, maybe I'll get on Facebook Marketplace.
One of the things that keeps coming to me as I work on this project is to have appreciation for the gifts that others are sharing with me. It can be really easy when we're working hard on something to pat ourselves on the back and to see our success and credit ourselves for that success. However, we should be mindful that there are lots of gifts being shared with us from the people around us, people we know, and even sometimes people we don't know that are contributing to our success. Even if it isn't something that's being contributed directly to our project, there are still people who help care for our children or help get our food on our table or help us have the electricity we need to stay up and work on plans, and it's all something that we can be thankful for. My dad is not the only person who is sharing his gifts with me, even though they're really clear to be seen here. There are other people around me who are sharing with me their time and their knowledge, their skills, their insights and ideas, their surplus building supplies. So even complete strangers that I've gotten connected with over the last 2 weeks who have been willing to share with me their experiences, their projects, inviting me to come see what they've done and get inspired and build ideas off of that. All of those things are gifts that are contributing to what the Fern House will be. And I look forward to the completion of this project when I can offer the Fern House as a gift to other people who are on a journey, a path of doing whatever it is they're doing, and they need a space to be inspired or be creative or just get reconnected. And the Fern House will be a gift to them to help them continue on the work they're doing.
Roofing nails, but then the roofing nails, they punch through the plywood, and on the inside you got nails sticking out. You don't want that. So we're going to use a staple, and the staples hold those down. The roofers use them all the time. You see roofers up there, they don't swing hammers anymore. They get up there and pop, 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 pop. They get guys going along laying shingles, and the other guy coming behind there, and he'll adjust it, bam, 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 and then they can lay a roof up quick.
Well, there we have it. I guess I'll be adding staples to the material list. There's a lot of things that I'm going to be learning about, and I'm excited to be able to tuck a few of these skills under my belt and hopefully be able to share them with somebody else at some other point in time. All right. So the building is 16 times 16 equals 256. Right? And then 22 times 22 equals 448. 448 plus
484.
Yeah, 444 plus 256 equals 740. So then I'm going to square. Did I say 740?
Yeah.
740. 27.2.
Did you type in 740?
740.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
27.2. That is the distance in feet that should measure between the opposite corners of my building to let me know if the stakes my dad and I put in the ground are square. Now, I think my dad and I have a pretty good eye for things, and I was willing to wager a trip to the local ice cream shop with my husband, saying that I was within 6 inches of square. My husband has been helping people with small building projects for quite some time as an excavator, and he assured me that nobody's eye is that good, and I would be at least 8 inches off.
27 and 3. I'm at 27 and 6.
No, you're not yet. You got a hold of that. I don't want you pulling this over. This is why I'm asking that.
Well, I'm lining it up with the big. This
I. Yeah, well, you're pulling this one over some.
Want to lay it on put it on the ground.
That first measurement came out to be 27 8.5 feet. I was pretty quick to claim my victory, but my husband said that we were not done yet, and we had to make a few other measurements before we could decide if I was truly within 6 inches of square. There was a lot of double dutch and hopscotch being played in the middle of this math equation, but when we finally got to the end of it, he turned out to be right. Not just right, but like really right. I turned out to be exactly 8 inches off from square. Like, what the heck? We ended up skipping out on ice cream that evening, not just because he won the bet, but because until we got the stakes actually set up and squared, the ice cream shop was closed. So he couldn't help but to rub in that had I had my stakes squared, we would have had time to make it for ice cream. Some pretty hot summer days were hitting us and the kids wanted to go swim in the pool. This meant that I had a little bit of time to be poolside at the clay shop and work on the plates and mugs for the Fern House. Slab projects really don't require much skill, so they're easy to jump into and feel successful with. I'm going to make another drop plate here, and I'm going to add a few ferns for imprints, just like I did for the first one. Clearly, I have minimal skill with my camera as well. I'm not sure what happened here, but here's the sideways version of me dropping the plate. Here, I'll give it to you again in the slow-mo version. Just the force of the impact is what's forming this plate, and actually the impact is enough to trim most of the edges for me as well. I'm just smoothing up the edges a little bit. I took a damp sponge to them as well. And then I'll set this project to the side for several days until it is leather hard, and then I can come back and pop it out of its mold and do some carving to enhance the features of the ferns. My first two items are sitting here ready actually to be put into a bisque fire, but we'll wait till the second mug and plate are done and fire them all together. I think it looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. The following day was a scorcher as well, and the kids were ready to go back and go swimming. So we agreed that we would take an hour out of the day to do that. That is more than enough time for me to make a mug to go with the second plate. I rolled a piece of fern onto this slab as well. It's not quite so defined, but I'll pull out the details. The biggest skill you need to have to do a slab project is to know how to score and slip. Most of us have learned how to do that in elementary school or somewhere along the line, so nothing I'm doing for this project is extra special. It's all pretty basic hand building techniques, so it's just a matter of being creative and having fun. If you're unsure of what I mean by score and slip, I'm just using this little wire tool to score the areas of clay that'll be bonded together. By scoring, I'm just kind of scratching back and forth to make a tic-tac-toe kind of pattern. And then I will apply slip. Slip is a pasty, watery clay that will act like glue as it dries. I apply the slip to the areas that'll be bonded together, and then just using pressure, I fit my handle right onto my mug. After it air dries and goes through the bisque fire, this handle will be plenty strong and it'll easily support anybody's morning cup of coffee. Time does have its limitations, and it is time for me to move on and attend to other things that I need to take care of. I'm not really sure when I'll get the opportunity to come back down and work on these projects, but I do know that time I can spare to work on the Fern House for the remainder of this week really should be devoted to my material list. Following numerous recommendations, I had decided I would try shopping out some local sawmills and consider rough cut lumber as an option for framing the Fern House. But I also wanted to send off a few emails to the box stores and the bigger lumber distributors in my area to just price compare and find out what a quote would be for my building supplies from them. Now, if you wonder what I mean by rough cut lumber, I'm talking about lumber that is considered to still be green. It is lumber that you would buy directly from a sawmill like this. Lumber that they have cut, but they have not run through a kiln to dry it out completely and remove any insects that may have been burrowed into that lumber. The other difference is that rough cut lumber is actual dimensions. So a 2x4 is truly 2x4, whereas the 2x4 you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot in the graded lumber section is going to be slightly smaller than 2 inches by 4 inches. Now, if I was building a building that was going to require a home inspection or an occupancy inspection, I would have to use graded lumber. But for my project, rough cut will be perfectly sufficient. Choosing to buy rough cut lumber direct from a local sawmill is a great way to save money as well. And not only is it saving me money, it's saving the environment a little bit as it eliminates a lot of unnecessary packaging and shipping. Following the advice and recommendations of numerous people and even another sawmill, I ended up here at Brubaker's sawmill. Mr. Brubaker, who is a local Amishman, was so very helpful. Really took some time to educate me about what I was buying and making sure that I was getting the right material. Only a few miles from the sawmill was a local discount and surplus building supplier, so I did make an appointment to stop by there and look at some windows while I was out checking out lumber. I was really excited to get to purchase the last of the windows I needed here for a great price. I purchased a single double hung and a twin double hung to really bring in a maximum amount of light onto the south facing side of the Fern House. Now it was a matter of going and taking the trailer to pick up the items that hadn't fit in the back of the truck. It was feeling like a lot of running, getting all these doors and windows collected, but I believe it was well worth the effort. I ended up with 10 windows for in the cabin, as well as 2 exterior doors. Both doors have full light, top to bottom, fully functional double hung windows in them with screens. So my exterior doors will double as screen doors if the guest would like. I purchased all of that for just over $1,300, and I am very satisfied with what I've collected.
Dedicated to every single George Strait fan. George Strait's ace in the whole radio.
There's something special to me. It was a song written by my old rhythm guitar player, David Anthony. What a great little slow swing tune. He was playing in the band at the time. As I hold you close tonight.
The last place I needed to go this week was a sawmill not far from me that I knew was going to have live edge boards that I would potentially use as my kitchen countertop and other shelving within the cabin.
So I tried to move on, but I found
I don't have a particularly favorite kind of music, but I do like to pair my music with my activity. George Strait seemed like just the thing to go with sawmill shopping. This place turned out to be an absolute gem. This is Bucks Valley Sawmill. That's their showroom. I hope to show you more about that in a later video. Today I spent my time in their barn. They call this the Wood Museum, and it is filled with live edge planks that are for sale.
Big honkin' toad chunk of white pine.
That's funny. I like this though. This is pretty. Oh, this place was an absolute hoot. My wife wants me to make her something from this. If you take it, you help us both. Take it! Oh my gosh. Blue denim pine. That's the fancy word for it. Fancy price would be too high. It's just white pine, so it's just $5. Oh my gosh, what's over here? Oh, for crying out loud, I'm getting dusty. Give the guy $5 and take me home. Oh, I had to dig through and read all the boards. 2 old pine planks from George Washington's estate. We think $10 for both. Oh my goodness. Coolest poplar board on the planet, or at least at this spot in the barn. $15. Now this board here did end up coming home with me. Sawn from that old Joshua tree in California. If you buy it, keep it quiet. National Park Service is still looking for it. $10. That's going to become the kitchen shelves in the Fern House right there. The cards were an absolute hoot, but truly to beat all was the prices. I expected this to cost so much more. I should explain myself what I mean by live edge lumber. These are boards that are not squared off, so you can still see the natural outline of the tree trunk or the branch that they were cut from. People will use these to make furniture pieces, countertops, shelves, anything that they want to have a real natural and often rustic kind of appearance. This piece came home with me too. It was $10, and it was just one of those things I couldn't walk away from. It was like calling my name. Maybe it'll be a bench by the front door. I'm not really sure yet. We'll find out, but I knew that it was meant to be part of the Fern House project.
Tell me what wood it is. It's free. It's really long, but it's really wide. It's deep. I like that.
It was really long. It was 10.5 feet long, which was over 4 foot longer than what I needed my countertop to be. But it was 3 inches thick and 24 inches wide, which really made it ideal for that project. And after looking around the barn several times, I found myself returning to it over and over. It definitely seemed like the right piece for the counter.
Super long. It hasn't been kiln drying yet?
No. Hardly anything in here was kiln dried. Usually we just, if somebody sees something they like, then we run it through the kiln.
So she told me that it should be run through in order to be a countertop.
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
And just because of the bugs, and
Oh, okay.
that's the main reason why, in case there's any
It's
bugs.
longer than what I need, but I need something because my burner for my stove is probably going to be at least a 22 inch. So I want something that's wider. So that's longer than I need, but I can cut it down. What's the cost to run it through the kiln?
It's 35.
Okay. All right. And I really like the piece of
This
hemlock
felt like a
strip.
deal to me. I thought I would be paying so much more to get a big slab of live edge wood to make this countertop. In this case, I'll have enough for a countertop plus another small end table or other piece of furniture. That's awesome. Even after I knew what I wanted to buy, I continued to shop around just for the enjoyment of it, because a good laugh is medicine to the soul.
I stole this from my competitor's showroom. They wanted $500. I'm good with $45.
Their style of marketing clearly worked well for me. Ain't I pretty? Well, I couldn't help but to check that board over a few times. But it turned out to be the board behind it that made me smile even more. I thought about staying longer, but it was time for me to get the truck loaded up and get going. My belly was growling and my kiddo was starting to wear out on me. I came home with 3 pieces of wood today. The first piece, marked wood, will become a bench most likely for the Fern House. The piece behind it, that hemlock, will be the countertop for in the bathroom, as well as some shelving in the bathroom. I did get that Joshua tree piece. It's, of course, a long piece of hemlock, skinny, but it will make great shelves in the kitchen, and I'm looking forward to displaying the fern plates and mugs on that. I also did get the 10.5-foot piece of hemlock for the kitchen countertop. It still needs to be run through the kiln, but it will also be able to be used for a furniture piece since it is a lot longer than what I needed. So I spent less than $200 today, but I feel like I got to add something really rich and unique to the cabin for the money that I did spend. I am so glad I've taken the time to run around to some of these smaller places in order to make my purchases for the Fern House. Not only have I saved myself quite a bit of money in doing that, I have also supported my local business. I've reduced the need for shipping and packaging, and I've got to meet and connect with some really cool people who were able to share with me tips and ideas and resources that otherwise I would not have come across. So, taking a chance and making the room to get connected with people definitely adds value to our lives, and I know it's definitely adding value to the Fern House project. If you've been following along with these videos, I sure hope they're inspiring you to create. If you're enjoying them, please hit subscribe or leave comments below. I would love to connect with you as well.